All right, thanks for joining me in today's video. And in today's episode, we're going to take a look at NVIDIA. So this stock's been a powerhouse and a lot of stuff has been in the news for this stock. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this stock and see how much higher can it really go and just show you some of the charts and breakdowns behind it. So if you haven't heard, NVIDIA is pretty much a top GPU maker. So they make a lot of, graphic design related cards, but they also have been used in cryptocurrency in the past for mining and that kind of thing. And this is what can also fuel things further for AI, which is where some of these news and fuel is coming from. So if we look at kind of just a recent movement into this stock, you can see a nice clean ABCD pattern from a longer term from 2015, which is always easy to see when you look at it hindsight. But here's what I want to point out for you is for now, as we look at this recent one, we are possibly creating another A, B, C, and maybe D pattern over here. And if we look at the clearing of this B point right here, it's already starting to clear that B point or the highs of that B point. And it's starting to press into some of those higher prices. So what happened there is through those earnings and through the earnings report, it pushed that stock quite a bit higher. Now that push was basically a 25% push or so after earnings and $115 movement. So if you take a look right here from this to this, we had a big pop and then we had a little bit more movement here to the upside. So that definitely pushed that stock quite a bit higher. Now, one of the things that I wanted to mention here is that when you look at this ABCD pattern back onto this long term right here, this is where things get really interesting, is that if you can see and sustain this long-term pattern, that means we've got quite a bit of upside. And how much upside? Well, we've moved about 294 points here on this one. So from here to here, we've already moved 265, okay? But we had a stock split in between there. So that's a 260 point move. And then normally you would see another next leg 260 move. But because the stock split, ABCD pattern is not as clean and clear cut. So what you would normally see is a bit further, or the length or distance between this point to this point would be about the same distance, and that could push that stock, in that $1,000 range. Now, I don't know if it's going to get there, but I'm just saying from a technical basis, this is kind of what you're really looking at when you're starting to watch these kinds of charts. The other thing to note is that as we're looking at this, the stock is breaking some of those all-time highs. So we had previous all-time highs there in 2021, but the stock did have a bit of a sell-off there afterward. So it had a bit of sell-off move, and then it kind of pushed back higher and breaking these highs. So now it's starting to do another push higher. So now I think what are we going to have at this exact moment? Obviously nobody knows, but what I'm seeing is that normally sideways action would be healthy. So if we continue to kind of move sideways for a little while and then push higher, that would be more healthy. If you see a continuation of further push higher, that's actually a little more dangerous, because what can happen then is you get a stock that's a little more accelerated, and then those usually pull back fairly quickly. And that could be a little more dangerous, because then what's happening is it's an emotional buy, and people, the company, doesn't reflect people. Then all of a sudden, oh, wow, it's just so high. Oh, they're getting in, piling in. So it becomes an emotional buy, and then all of a sudden it just tanks the stock later, where everybody's dumping it because they realize, oh, what they got isn't as good as before. So anyway, they do have some good projections for the future, but obviously we'll see. Time will tell if that sustains it. Even stocks like Microsoft, as you can see, is pressed really well recently. But some stocks that do well, like look at here's Netflix in the past, they do have pullbacks. So be aware that if you get too extended here, you do have a potential for a pretty significant pullback here, which took out almost 5 years worth of gains on Netflix there. And now it's slowly starting to climb, or try to climb back to the upside. So anyway, my point here to you is that when you're looking at NVIDIA, to simplify things, we have some nice upward trends, and this trend right here has a nice A to B, B to C, C to D pattern that's possibly moving it forward. And if it pushes that way, that could be good from a long-term basis. From a shorter-term basis, we could have some sideways action, and even possibly a slight little pullback to fill that gap a little more, and then move higher. So from a current time frame, we could still continue to see this thing move somewhat a little more sideways, or even pull back. If we take a look at what we've got going on with some of these companies here, the ones related. On today's basis, we've got NVIDIA up $2.68. Microsoft's actually doing quite well. Apple and AMD are also doing quite well. So from a percentage basis, it looks like Intel's actually doing the best. But then next one up is a little bit more like AMD. So I do like AMD when we kind of pull it up here on this chart. Let's check it out. It's been doing quite well, and it also had a nice gap up there. So pushing, and kind of trying to come back into that $160 range. So it's been overall healthy since it came down into that 60, back up to 120, 130. So overall, there's more volume coming into the stock. So as we kind of check those companies, they are doing pretty well overall, these movers, shakers, and these chip and tech companies. So anyway, I hope that helps. Truly appreciate you joining me, sticking with me on the charts, and checking out NVIDIA. So I'll see you in the next update. Take care.